Welcome home to philosophy, where we wonder about everything and anything is possible. Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Corey, the Laughing Philosopher. Life is complicated. The world is complicated, and you are complicated. Figuring out how to live a happy, meaningful life, guided by wisdom and reason, is not easy. Is life a game? What is love? Should I fear death? Is this a just world? Almost from the moment of birth, you've been told how to behave, how to fit in, and how to fulfill other people's expectations. You fear that you will lack importance or cease to exist in the lives of others if you think for yourself and question the rules and roles you've been told define you. Wisdom and reason will remove this illusion so you can live authentically in the world around you, find your true purpose, and become your real self. Welcome to episode number 104. Challenging our instinct to judge. Stoic wisdom on labeling others and ourselves. Writing a note to himself in his personal journal. Meditations. Marcus Aurelius, the last of the rulers, later known as the 5 good emperors, reminded himself, say to yourself each morning, today I will meet with people who are meddling, ungrateful, overbearing, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. They suffer from these flaws through ignorance of good and bad. The world is filled with other people who you perceive are not like you. They are not normal like you. So they must be abnormal. They think, feel, and act differently. They hold different opinions and perspectives. Not just different, you believe, but wrong. So you judge and label other people. You judge them as not of good character, and you label them as neither wise, nor good, nor virtuous. You judge them as ignorant and evil and immoral, and you label them as possessing bad character. You judge them as sinful and vile and wicked, and you label them as risky and perilous. Such people were destined to cross his path, and so, to reduce the sting and emotional stress, Marcus Aurelius rehearsed these adverse encounters in his mind before they occurred, so that he would be mentally prepared for them when they actually take place in the future. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "Let us think of anything that could happen as something that will happen. That which has been long expected is more gentle when it arrives, he said. This Stoic approach to stressful people and negative events is called the premeditation of future adversity. When one doesn't anticipate a disaster, it weighs more heavily on us, said Seneca. Listening to this episode right now, you are engaging in premeditation of future adversity. Everyone believes himself to be a good judge of other people. You spend more time with yourself than with any other person, so you think you're a pretty good judge of yourself, too. Thinking it doesn't make it true. Believing it doesn't make it true. Good and bad, right and wrong, wise and ignorant, moral and immoral, and normal and abnormal are harder to see rightly, to understand rightly, and to judge rightly than you think or believe or care to admit to yourself. Judging people and labeling people are easy to do. Getting it right is hard. Nietzsche said, "And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." In 1973, sociologist David L. Rosenhan published an experiment testing whether it is possible to tell sane people from insane people. We may be totally, absolutely convinced that we can distinguish normal people from abnormal people, but we can't. Passing judgment on other people's fitness to remain or fit in society is risky and perilous. Rosenhan discovered that normal and abnormal people do not exist. Sane and insane people do not exist. Conformists and nonconformists do not exist. The labels exist, but not the behaviors. Even in insane places, it is hard to tell sanity from insanity. Some behaviors are indeed deviant or weird. Murder is deviant. Carrying an open umbrella on a sunny day is weird. But normality and abnormality are a lot less clear than we believe them to be, and a lot harder to judge. Nietzsche said, "You have your way. I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist." Rosenhan's experiment was getting normal people admitted to psychiatric hospitals and then determining whether they are discovered by hospital staff to be sane. If the sanity of such pseudo-patients were to be detected, there would be strong evidence that a sane person can indeed be distinguished from the insane place where he is found. Normality can be judged and recognized wherever it occurs, for it exists within the person and not just within the environment in which an observer finds the person. In Rosenhan's study, 8 sane people, 3 women and 5 men, gained secret admission to 12 different psychiatric hospitals. Pseudo-patients were normal people who do not have and have never suffered any symptoms of any psychiatric disorders. Pseudo-patients complained to the hospital admissions office that they had been hearing strange and unfamiliar voices. Immediately after admission to the psychiatric ward, the pseudo-patients ceased simulating any symptoms of abnormality and behaved as he or she normally behaved. Length of hospitalization ranged from 7 to 52 days, with an average stay of 19 days. Despite their sanity, the pseudo-patients were never discovered. None. 0. Once admitted and labeled insane, the pseudo-patient was stuck with that label, and the observations and interactions with pseudo-patients of physicians, psychiatrists, and other hospital staff simply conformed to the expectations of the label. For example, all pseudo-patients took extensive notes publicly. Nursing records interpreted their note-taking as a feature of their psychiatric disorder. Once labeled psychologically disturbed, compulsive writing was seen as a behavioral consequence of that disturbance. We cannot distinguish insanity from sanity. Labels are sticky. Believing is seeing. Then, Rosenhan decided to reverse the experiment. Can diagnosing the sane insane be reversed? So, a follow-up experiment was arranged. Rosenhan informed the staff of a research and teaching psychiatric hospital that during the following 3 months, 1 or more pseudo-patients would attempt to gain admission. Each hospital staff member was asked to judge whether each patient was a pseudo or real patient. Judgments were obtained on 193 patients who were admitted for psychiatric treatment. 41 patients were judged by the staff with high confidence to be pseudo-patients and sane. 23 were suspected by at least one psychiatrist of being normal. 19 were suspected of normalcy by one psychiatrist and one other staff member. Actually, no genuine pseudo-patient, none, zero, presented himself or herself for hospital admission during the 3-month period. Let that sink in. Rosenhan's second experiment proves that labeling the sane insane can indeed be reversed. The insane can be labeled sane. Labels have a life and influence of their own. Labeling the sane insane carries permanent individual and social stigmas. Labeling the insane sane is dangerous and destructive to society. Judgments of others can attribute aberrations to the individual that are simply responses to their circumstances and environment. Misattributed to the individual's character and personality, judgments of normality and abnormality play a destructive role in society. Labeling the healthy sick and the sick healthy, the normal abnormal and the abnormal normal, the sane insane and the insane sane, lead to depersonalization and alienation. Whenever we don't know, we tend to assume that we understand more than we actually do, and just fill in the gaps in our knowledge with made-up, manufactured truths. Why can't we just admit that we simply don't know what needs to be known and simply stop judging the lives of others? The fact of the matter is that if we can't even distinguish normal from crazy and sane from insane, how useful and reliable are our judgments of who is good and who is bad, who is right and who is wrong, who is moral and who is immoral, who is wise and who is ignorant, who is in conformity and who is in nonconformity, and who is normal and who is abnormal? Aristotle said, "There is only one way to avoid criticism. Do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing." Judging and labeling are easy. Getting it right is tricky and hard. Jesus, a pretty good philosopher, said, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." If you impose labels on others, then labels will be applied to you. Kierkegaard said, "Once you label me, you negate me. Don't label," he said. When the individual must live up to the expectations of the label, then the individual ceases to exist. The individual's true self is consumed by the label. Only the label exists. The individual's potential for self-knowledge and self-determination is lost. The power to create ourselves is lost. Our potential to achieve the dreams we have about ourselves is lost. The same is true of self-judgment and self-labeling. Don't judge, said Jesus, and he made no exception for you to judge yourself. Don't judge yourself as well as other people. You will negate yourself by identifying yourself with the label rather than identifying yourself with what you actually are and with what you can and really ought to be. Kierkegaard said, "Don't forget to love yourself." Seneca emphasized how important it is to analyze the sense impressions presented to our mind. Don't make snap judgments because first impressions can be deceiving. He said, "You should postpone judgment even if it seems clear and evident, because some false things appear to be true. We must always allow for some time to pass. A period of time reveals the truth." Time and again, Seneca tells us that the most powerful weapon for defeating judgment and labeling is delay. Just slow down. Delay judgment. This gives you time to pause your judgment in order to evaluate and analyze. Then choose the good judgment toward which you ought to throw your weight. Epictetus said, "Testing impressions is the philosopher's single most important task, and no impression should be accepted unless it has been carefully tested." Think like a philosopher. Delay. It is the mark of an educated mind, said Aristotle, to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Humility is not something we are born with or without. Humility is a virtue we can learn and practice. Aristotle said that we are what we do. We learn by doing. We build a virtuous life with practice that develops good habits and good character. Don't pay any attention to what people say they believe. Words are easy. What you believe doesn't make you a good person. It's what you do. Actions are hard. Actions build and reveal one's true character. Children are open-minded and humble. Like Socrates, children know that true wisdom is knowing they know nothing. So, children can learn anything. You can't learn something if you think you already know it. We stop learning when we think we already know everything. When we stop practicing humility, we stop being a bridge to new knowledge. And as we age, we close up like a box. A box keeps things outside as well as inside. As adults, to attain good character, we need to win the fight against this human, all too human, bad habit in ourselves. Everyone who has quit smoking has learned from experience that you can replace a bad habit with a good habit. First, stop judging, ranking, and labeling other people. Think about how people judge and label you. Think about how the label dictates other people's perceptions of the kind of person you are and the kind of things you are capable of. Think about how other people's measure and expectations of you are limited and reduced to the label. Think about how the label is like a mold that stops you from becoming more than you are and hinders your progress toward achieving the dreams you have about yourself. Break the mold. Don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. Second, interact with other people without judgment, keeping an open mind to who they actually are and what they can really be. Plato said, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle." Third, you are justly proud of your own talents and skills. Be grateful also for the talents and skills of others. No one is good at everything, but everyone is good at something. I'm pretty good at doing philosophy, but I can't drive a car. So I practice humility by asking for a ride in other people's cars. And I practice admiration for their skills. And I practice gratitude for their generosity. And fourth, just as you can't learn something if you think you already know it, you can't fix a flaw in yourself that you don't recognize or care to admit to yourself. The most important and powerful person in your life is you. And the most important conversations you will ever have are with yourself. Knowing yourself is the beginning of good character. Look beyond other people's judgments and labels and learn to see yourself as you really are. Every act of good character, no matter how small, is transforming you into a better person. Every day, as you walk past a homeless person on the street, empty your pockets of all your spare change. It's just a small act of humility, like water dripping on a stone, drop by drop. Nothing seems to be happening, but 1 year later, look at the stone, and the softest thing in the world has overcome the hardest. Practice good character, and drop by drop, you will become a good and virtuous person. You may not be rewarded for your virtue, but you will be rewarded by your virtue. Socrates said, "The greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be." Thank you for listening. I hope you will take what you've learned and be a better person. Think for yourself. Question everything. Accept nothing that does not agree with your own reason and good sense. And I promise you, despite its sham and drudgery, you will get on pretty well in this crazy world. I'm Dr. Robert Corey. Until we meet again, be good.